Welcome to my port report on the PC version of Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. This is a little outside of my normal field, just running through the Metal Gear games. But as the franchise is dear to me, I figured I'd take a quick look at this as it's just been released for Steam today. Unfortunately, I'm unable to stream Ground Zeroes as I would normally stream the other Metal Gear games due to Australian internet being somewhat behind the times compared to the rest of the world. I can't get enough quality out of the stream to satisfy myself. So I will be doing a quick overview of the PC port to see how it's handled the transition, and likely at a later date a fully recorded playthrough of this admittedly short game. First issue a number of people are probably going to have, there is no mouse in the menu. It just doesn't work. You've got to use a keyboard, WAS and D, or up, down, left, right, whichever takes your fancy. I've hooked up my PS3 controller, as I'm much more comfortable playing Metal Gear with a controller. I'll just quickly address the options menu, as that's the main sort of components of the port. Got all of your, fortunately, listed as 360 controllers rather than PS3 controllers, but not many games do that. You've got all of your standard options from the console version, all here. Fairly standard stuff. The only game, you'd think this is complex menu, game settings merely has the reflex mode, which I turn off. It's personal preference. I don't like the bullet time you get when spotted by a guard. It doesn't feel right to me. But, I think the thing everyone's interested in is the graphics settings, which are actually fairly in-depth, considering. Unfortunately, I can only pull up to 1080p as I'm running a somewhat dated PC, and my monitor can only output at 1080, but I believe they were saying originally that this can go up to 4K if you're one of those well-off people who has access to a 4K monitor and a computer capable of outputting at that resolution. And your fairly standard VSync. Frame rate, you've got either 30 FPS lock or auto, which, as far as I've been able to determine, is a 60 FPS lock. So I'm not sure quite why it's auto instead of just 30-60. Which is, to me, acceptable, but I realize other PC enthusiasts will likely find 60 FPS lock to be unacceptable, or at least, well, the bare minimum acceptable. You've got a full range of low through to extra high on all of your textures, texture filtering, shadows, lighting, screen filtering, SSAO, and effects. Which, when we get into the gameplay, you'll be able to see a good bit of that in further detail. I've already done a quick run through myself before recording to make sure that the game was running fine on my PC and that I could still remember how to play this. It's my least played Metal Gear. Just quickly take a sort of non-spoiler, or at least as minimalist on the spoilers as I can, run through all the base scenario. The game is a fairly direct sequel to Peace Walker. If you haven't played Peace Walker, which would be a shame, it's a pretty good game and relatively well available these days with the PS3 port around. The story will be a bit lost on you as it just deep ends you. I will be skipping the cutscenes to avoid spoilers and just...
Mission info has been updated.
This is an infiltration mission. You've got to stay
straight up
outside.
address gameplay.
Before you go any further, use your binoculars to recon the area. Head for the old prison. You'll find the targets there. What do you see? Press the call button to get more intel.
Not actually. Yeah, there we are. Quite a nice
quiet.
looking game
There's
at
new
outset.
guys. You see their choppers? Who are they?
Again, I don't have the greatest PC, but I have been able to max the settings out on this at a 1080 resolution without any significant loss of frame rate. Now, those of you that have either watched my streams or know me from some other Metal Gear content will know that I tend to prefer a stealthy,
Keep low. You can check the controls on the pause screen.
non-kill. Oh, I should actually.
If you ready your weapon while crawling, you can move horizontally
Yes,
left or
cuz
right.
I know how
If
to
you
play
do that
Metal Gear,
holding the
thank you.
dash button, you'll move faster.
You've got your, I don't know what they call it in this one. Previously the iDroid, possibly the iDroid still is. Or mini-map and menus. We'll address some of these later.
You can use your iDroid to check all sorts of operational
it is the
data.
iDroid.
The
It's
map,
the-
objectives, the target's locations. It'll help a lot if you let it.
Long-range sniping with silenced pistol, not the most effective strategy. Is that actually, that does have a silence on it, okay. A little bit different from the usual Metal Gears, you've not got a health bar in this one. Unfortunately, we have been relegated to the regenerating health
Now
bar
head
of the
east
Call
to
of
the
Duty
old prison area.
franchise.
You can bring up the target's location on your iDroid.
Which is, personally, to me, quite a bit of a disappointment. I prefer static health bar, health packs and whatnot, rather than go hide in a corner for a bit to regenerate. I will actually show off, I'll get a bit further in before I start breaking out lethal weapons, but this has retained a lot of
You should
the
move the bodies of enemies somewhere out of sight.
Metal Gear's franchise of allowing you to disable... Oh, Jesus. Oh, yeah, off to a good start there. Unlike usual Metal Gear games, access vehicles in this one.
That's the old prison area. The target's there.
Gunplay is fairly meaty, rather satisfying. This is what I mean, regenerating health. You've got this silly bollocks.
Searching the area. Over. This is CP. Understood. Watch yourselves. Don't let them flank you. Out.
I'll try to show off a few more of the sort of amusing gunplay moments. Fortunately, it's kind of built into me to just go for headshots in Metal Gear games through years and years of
Where's he hiding?
playing the franchise. Holy hell, they're just coming out of the woodwork right now.
Where are you?
As you can see, the game runs fairly, well actually really smooth, despite my somewhat aged hardware. I'll post a list of my PC statistics in the description for the video, so that people will have an idea. Playing sniper with assault rifle is not the best idea.
You alright?
No, I don't think it's all, my friend.
CP, this is Delta 1. We're under fire. Suppressed weapon. No shots heard. Over.
Jesus.
This is CP. Understood. All units on alert. The enemy's hiding somewhere. Find them.
And in place of your soliton radar, you have this kind of alert
CP,
lights.
this is Delta 3. Spotted a suspicious person. Checking it out. Over. This is CP. Understood.
Unfortunately, this game seems to have inherited the alert system from Metal Gear Solid 1 of all things. Where if one guard spots you, the whole site knows in an instant. No one has to radio home, which seems an odd decision,
This
if
is
you
an
ask me.
infiltration mission. You've got to stay out of sight. Enter
Considering
the old prison. You'll find the targets there.
for the last few iterations of the franchise, we've had more and more sort of complexity of how to disable the radio man and not get alerted. And then this one just goes straight back to if a guard sees you, you are detected and the whole base knows about your presence. Lighting. That looks really quite well. There is a jeep coming. Yeah, the game doesn't have the... Oh, missed. Never mind. It's not quite... like, it doesn't seem to have had a texture upgrade from the console version. There's
Contact
still
me if you need advice.
relatively decent texture work, but it just appears to be fairly Bother. Fairly straight up port of the console version without a lot done to it. This is pretty cool. When you disable them, they go for their sidearms. Nice touch.
Enough! Get out here!
That's the old prison area. The target's there.
Unfortunately, I am failing terribly at being stealthy right now.
Contact! Open fire! Support fire!
What's weird is the level of blurriness that ends up on Snake in different zoom levels. Like, you hold it. I'm trying to talk. You hold it at a sort of standard camera angle, it looks pretty nice, but as soon as you start to zoom in, that happens. It goes all fuzzy and then the model just kind of flips out of existence. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. It just seems to be
CP, this is Delta 4.
that specific camera
Hostile
angle
outside.
that clips him out of
Searching
existence.
now. Over. This is CP. Understood. Search every corner. They gotta be around here somewhere. Out.
Unfortunately, we're gonna just quickly... Whoop. Oh, mouse. It's not. It's going to.
Leave no stone unturned. The target has to be somewhere.
Let's finish up this. I'll finish up this segment of the game and then quickly show you another part. Be a bit more intense on the action. I'll skip through this so that we're not.
Mission info has been
I've marked the RV on your map. Okay, now carry Chico there.
The map has been updated.
Don't need the nitrogen bubbles, thank you.
Please select allow.
This is one of
landing
the
zone confirmed.
features I'm
Roger that,
particularly
chopper
fond
request.
of. Is call him Chopper. Resuming normal patrol, don't mind me, okay.
This is Marco, arriving shortly at LZ. Once you don't end up head first in the ocean. The RV's just a little further.
Yeah, I'm legitimately impressed with how well the game.
You reach the RV. Put the target down for a minute. How's he doing? Put the target on the chopper.
Like how well the game is playing at maximum settings, despite not being on the most high-end PC. Am I able to stop that? Actually, that's pretty spoilerific.
On your feet.
Okay, good. I can. I'll save the spoilers for the actual playthrough of the game. Actually, I suppose I could just quickly finish this off to round out the video. I think I know where I need to go next. It's a very, like, if you know where you're going, this is a very, very short game. It's currently, I believe, $13 on Steam, which is not a bad price, but at the same time, you're essentially paying $13 for a demo. Do the sneaky thing, actually. Get driven around in a truck. It'd be nice if you could zoom the camera out for these segments. Unfortunately, it's kind of get a bit frustrated. You get the same issue again where Snake seems to sort of go out of focus
Surveillance camera.
when you come up close to him. Everything else seems to remain fine. But strange just fuzz when the camera's up close.
Opening front gate. Supply deliveries on its way in. Opening front gate.
Watch the admin building. Watch your corners. CQC is effective for dealing with nearby enemies.
For the most part, it plays like a fairly standard Metal Gear fare, so If you like Metal Gear games, you'll enjoy this. If you don't, this isn't likely to change your mind too much. To get past that camera and into that building. God damn it. Another nice effect is the light on the guns actually does something now rather than just get you discovered much more easily. Properly blinds the guards as they get up too close to you. What I had intended to do was sneak in here because I knew there was a silenced assault rifle in here. Acquire the silenced assault rifle, take out the cameras, and move on. Evidently, there was a guard in there that I didn't know about. Now, unfortunately, while you can see a lot of buildings, most of them are non-accessible. You can't get inside to take a look around. Most of them are just
CP, this is Zulu 1. No sign of
painted
the
on
enemy.
doors, essentially.
Searching the area. Over.
I'll try to get a CQC in them, actually, since this gets pretty tight in the quarters. The light is extremely effective, as is CQC. Okay, that bugged out a little bit there. Apparently I successfully performed the double takedown while falling over. Not quite sure how that happened, but okay.
CP, this is Delta 1.
Oh, hello.
Lost visual contact. Heading to last known position. Over. This is CP. Understood. Keep your eyes peeled for any movement. Out.
Nice, this is contact, seriously? This is particularly unusual for me because I'm usually a very quiet and stealthy player when it comes to the Metal Gear franchise.
It's too dangerous to try and contact the target. Wait for the enemy to stand down.
Not the best way to be stealthy, the old shotgun. It's certainly fun. There's one thing to be said. The gunplay in this is definitely a lot of fun. Which is a bit of a shame in itself for those like myself who prefer to do tranquilizer runs, no-kill runs,
Over. This is CP. Understood. Make your check, but proceed with caution.
you'll actually lose out on a lot of the very satisfying gunplay. Because I initially, when I played through the game on console, I did a no-kills run as my first playthrough of the game. I never really got to experience
Contact! 2 o'clock!
all of the fun. Context sensitive has failed me. This has the standard Metal Gear problem of infinitely respawning
CP, this
guns.
is Delta 9. No sign of the enemy. Searching the area.
The enemy's trying to take you out. Contact the target later.
Watch yourselves. Don't let them flank you. Out.
They're standing down. Make
There.
contact with the target.
Once again, I'll quickly zoom through this because extreme spoilers.
Boss,
Mission
get
info
Boss
has
onto the
been
helicopter.
What I need is a lethal sidearm.
Stay away.
CP, this is Zulu 10. An enemy got to one of us. They just found his body. Over. This is CP. Understood. Further losses are unacceptable. Keep your eyes open. Out.
Rain. It's an illusion. In the mud.
Fortunately, there's not a lot you can do while carrying a passenger. Context sensitive shenanigans.
He's here!
Go ahead and call the chopper. Keep an eye out for
Oh. Right, BTR shuttle through. Okay, fair enough.
Target confirmed dead. Mission failed.
Anyway, I think that has reasonably shown off a large portion of the base scenario of the PC port. The game seems to have held up well enough compared to its console version. There's no area that it's particularly lacking, thank goodness. Some of the horrible ports we've had these days. The game actually has an options menu. I wouldn't encourage anyone to play the game with a keyboard and mouse. That's asking for trouble. But such is the case with a lot of console to PC ports. Keyboard and mouse just does not hold up well for a game that was specifically designed for a controller. Anyway, hopefully shortly in the future I will get a proper playthrough recording of Ground Zeroes done. For those of you that were interested in seeing it, I'll be recording the PC version. Despite having the console version, the PC version does seem to look graphically superior. Unless I'm misremembering. I hope this has at least been somewhat informative, if a bit waffly, as I kind of tend to do in a lot of my videos. Or a lot of my streams, I should say. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.